This is Jordan Grace, and you're listening to the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
BWB, this is One Nation Radio. You better get it right. Rich Latta, James Boyd came to give them life. The Blackest Wrestling Podcast has come to kick all ass and drop it 6 feet if they kicking trash. Word, let me welcome y'all to something different. And if you dig it, man, you should let some friends listen. We be getting it in, this on the regular dude. Ravish and flow, but this shit rude. See, James don't rap, so I had to break it down. The whole network, man, we coming for the crown. Raps in the columns, I keep them both covered. Making the beats too, so the listeners can bump it. Hit us with the rating, yeah, I'm saying it's a 5. Before you hit it, talk, bob your head side to side. It's One Nation Radio, and this is the beginning. It's Rich, and I'm here with James. It's time to listen to One Nation.
You got to unleash the power of the pyramid.
This is Mike Sempervive from WrestlingObserver.com. Check me out on Wrestling Observer Live every day. And also check out your boys, Rich and James, on One Nation Radio.
This is Kenny Omega. We're listening to One Nation Radio. Check it out, guys. These guys know what's up. Big Kenny Omega fans. That's all that counts to me. Goodbye and good night. Bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of One Nation Radio. I'm James Boyd, and this week we have a solo edition. It's just me, myself, and I. Rich will be back next week. He had some things he had to take care of, and we'll catch up with him next week on the next show. But I guess we just get into it. The NBA Finals are coming up tomorrow. Feature the Milwaukee Bucks and I almost said Philadelphia, the Phoenix Suns. I don't know who had that going into the season and who betted on that matchup, but whoever did, I liked some lotto numbers as well, because I didn't expect this. I was one of the few people, I think, that thought highly of the Suns, with the additions of Chris, of course, and with Jay Crowder, and I thought that they were going to be a 4 or 5 seed in the West. Ended up being a 2 seed. Had to do with Anthony Davis injuries and Jamal Murray injuries. But that's what ended up being. They're a team that is overachieved. They're a team that is a lot better and more talented even I thought they were. I thought that Ayton was going to be a very good player. I did not have any idea that he was going to look like a person that's going to make like 5 to 8 all-star teams over the next 10 years. I didn't see that coming. I didn't foresee that. I thought he had that kind of potential, but the way it came across and everything, he's even better and further ahead of schedule than I thought he was. I thought that Booker and Chris together were just going to be a dynamite duo, and they've shown to be that. On the other end, you look at the Bucks, and I'm happy for them. This is a team that went into the offseason with their biggest star since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in unrestricted free agency. And he didn't go into it. He decided, I'm re-signing. And that is especially special given the way that they have gone out of the playoffs the last 2 years. For him to have the kind of faith in management and coaching, quite frankly, that they were going to get this done, and for him to see that through, that was a big leap of faith, and it's paid off for them. And that's a big thing for a lot of the teams around the league and smaller markets, which is most of the league, that are always afraid of them drafting somebody, them getting the next MVP, All-NBA, multiple-time All-Star type person, and then they can't get it right in a certain number of years, and that player then says, hey, it's been real, it's time for me to go. You can look at James Harden in the offseason. You can look at how every single team in the league has been looking at Bradley Beal for the last 18 months. But they're here now, and by hook or by crook, injuries or whatever in this season that has been crazy, they got there, and hopefully Giannis can make it into the playoffs. He had the knee injury in Game 4 against the Hawks, and it was, I didn't see it, but people have told me it looks graphic. People thought his season was done, and it was going to be what's happening in 2023 as opposed to 2021 or 2022. But they're here now, and after watching that in the game 7 against the Nets, where everybody just killed themselves to get to the next round. I have a huge amount of respect for Middleton. I've always had a huge amount of respect for Tucker, dating back to the Houston days, playing small ball 4 and being a corner shooter, defensive assignment guy, tough as nails, hustle guy. I've always appreciated his game from a team perspective, and I, quite frankly, like, you know, we didn't think this was going to be the finals we were going to get, but I'm happy that both of these teams made it for various different amount of reasons. And I guess I'll just get into it now. Rich knows this. I don't know if we really talked that much to even really get into this, but Chris Paul is my out of the active players in the league, he's my second favorite basketball player that's still active, behind LeBron, of course. He's a guy that I think Ryan Wassillo recently said it the best. You turn on these games, on league pass games, national television, the playoffs, whatever, and you just hope that whoever you're watching gives a shit. And Chris Paul, as much as virtually anybody in the last 20 years of basketball, has given a shit. He's given a shit in a way that has been detrimental. If you look at his career, if you are a person that is a naysayer, a person that is a non-believer, a person that is negative on Chris Paul, the things that you don't like are the way he is always trying to scam you when you're in the bonus, or to get to the bonus in the back halves of quarters, by getting the ball in transition, stopping on a dime in the goofy center that's trying to hustle up the court to try to catch the trailing big man that he's behind. Just runs him over because he stops on a dime, and it's a foul. Take the ball out and you're in bonus. I understand that he makes the game less enjoyable to watch from a foul hunting perspective. I'm okay with that. I'm the person that is okay with an NFL team passing every single down, because it's the most efficient strategy to try to win the game. Like, the only thing that I don't really like in terms of the bush leaguery of in NBA basketball is like hack-a-shack. Like, that's garbage. That's garbage. But outside of that, the foul hunting stuff that Trae Young does, that James Harden does, the flopping that people like LeBron, Chris Paul, a lot of the European brothers, Pat Bev, the flopper as well, Cam Artis-Payne's flopper as well. I find that to be a bit of gamesmanship. I find it to be, contact was made here. No way this ref saw this. We've played enough basketball. We know where these refs are on the court from experience. I'm going to embellish to then get a call. Chris Paul is in the top 2 all time of that. And if you don't like that, I completely understand. I don't encourage it. But I do believe that it goes in his DNA of he's so driven to win that he is willing to stoop to these levels. I'm not saying that you have to respect it. I'm just saying that I understand that's a part of him, and I'll take all the other stuff he does along with that. He's somebody that the nerds, advanced metrics, numbers people love, because you look at his PER, you look at his win shares, his net rating, offensive, defensive, complete per 100 possessions, all that kind of stuff. He's always one of the all-time greats in that category. And then his detractors, along with the fact they don't like his tactics, will then go to, he does all of this crap, and his numbers make it like he's like the 7th greatest basketball player of all time that does not drive. I agree. I do not think Chris Paul is the 7th greatest basketball player of all time, or in the top 10. I think that's preposterous as well. What I do think is he is the best prototypical point guard since Isaiah Thomas. So that's effectively like the last 25 to 30 years. I think that he also has not done any favors by the fact that the position has changed over the years, so he looks like a dinosaur. It's kind of like looking at Tim Duncan when, obviously they call him power forward. He was a center, whatever. But you look at, like, he was like the last of a dying breed until pretty much Jokic and Embiid came back around, right? Whereas, like, his game, he kind of feels kind of stale, but you look at wherever he's been, he's always made every team he's been on better. He was left for dead in 2019 when he got traded with picks and pick swaps for Russell Westbrook to Oklahoma City. And lo and behold, they lose Russell Westbrook, a future first ballot Hall of Famer, MVP. And they lose Paul George, who, before his shoulders went down, was one of the top 8 or so best players before he hurt his shoulders at that point in his career. They both lose them. They get Chris Paul and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, young Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and they win more games. He's that kind of guy to where, regardless if you don't like him, and it's understandable if you don't like him, regardless of his injuries at crucial leverage points in series, like that 2018 West Conference Finals, the disastrous 2015 semifinals against the Rockets when they blew the 3-1 lead, when he missed the first 2 games with a hamstring thing and he came back and then went on with the shit. He's a person that his fatal flaw is he'll try too hard at times, and that injuries. But he is somebody that has stayed the course, and in year 16, he's in the finals for the first time, and I'm happy for him. Win, lose, or whatever else, because I remember, I think it was Howard Bryant, he was talking about all-time great players, all sports. He pointed out something I found to be interesting. This is maybe like a couple months ago. He pointed out that, I don't know if it was his observation, he was saying this is something that someone else said, but I remember him saying, I can't remember who he credited to it, but his point was, in pretty much every team sport, the best players, individual players in those sports, eventually at one point in their career, make it to at least a championship round of in every sport, with very few with very few times that doesn't happen. So I'm happy that he finally gotten to this level. I think that from a legacy standpoint, you could point out all the stuff I've just talked about that we went over just now, and talk about like his greatness as a person that sets the table, and regardless of what you think of him, his teams have historically always over-delivered in the regular season and in crunch time because of one simple thing. You're always going to get a shot on a possession with him. Whether it's foul shots, whether it's a three-pointer, whether it's whatever, mid-range, whatever. He doesn't turn the ball over. His teams historically are always at the bottom of the league in turnovers. He's going to get a shot on the rim, and they're going to run something. And you look at this Hawks. You look at this Suns team, and even when they were struggling against the Clippers with Beverly hounding Booker, for all the people that on the Westbrook joke about he be tricking y'all into thinking he's good, well, you look at what Booker struggled with. You look at what Westbrook struggles with in the playoffs. At high pivotal moments against that dude, he can do that to you. But the thing with the Suns is, even when their offense isn't working, they're always eventually running something. It's very rare you're going to get multiple possessions where it's just garbage out there, and you don't know what the hell they're doing in like a college offense. And they're fun to watch from that perspective. Moving over to the Bucks. It's a big moment for Giannis if he can come back or whatever else. A big moment for Middleton. Like, they stayed the course. I think, as far as Budenholzer and his thin ice he's on, I think it got a little, easier for him to, keep this job if they don't win. Like, I don't really see a scenario where they lose and they have to fire him. I thought if they lost to the Hawks, they would have had to fire him because there are not many adjustments being made. They're far more talented than them. It would have been embarrassing if they lost to them. Like, the Hawks, it's a nice run for the Hawks, but that looks like one of those things where we're going to look back in like 3 years and be like, and we're going to blame and point at Trae Young and say, how come you got this team to the Eastern Conference Finals one time, how come you can't get them out the second round anymore? And you're going to look back and be like, well, that team wasn't really that good. And they played the right team at the right time with the right superstar that absolutely was terrified to be on the floor in crunch time, and it was just that simple. But as far as the Bucks in the Suns series, I think I'll probably take the Suns in 6. Depending on when Giannis comes back, if he can come back. Apparently he was practicing for the first time on a basketball court today, but I don't know. I just don't see them having enough oomph without Giannis. Obviously, like without having a 2-time MVP, not defending anymore, but the MVP of the previous 2 seasons. I just think it's really hard. I think Chris Paul gets this one, and I think it's a story that's just as simple as time. It's an all-time great at the tail end of their career, fighting while still contributing at a high level, and chasing a ring. Not chasing a ring, that's the pejorative way, but like getting the ring before it becomes a chasing rings thing where he's on his, like, you know, at the end of a bench. So, I think it'll do a lot for Chris Paul's legacy. I think this is probably could be the biggest potential turn for a superstar since maybe Dirk won a title in 2011. He was another person that you look at his career stats, but you look at the landscape of the league, and it just doesn't seem to have came together in that same way, where you look at his advanced numbers and he looks like a top 10, 15-ish type of player, but you look at the landscape and you think, he played in the same league as Tim Duncan and KG. I don't think he was on that level. And then you look back at it and you look at at those teams, and then you think of how he broke through and what he did to get to that level, and you're like, it make you question some things about maybe we're too hard on somebody or whatever. But yeah, I guess that's in for the finals preview. But one thing before we move on to wrestling, we'll talk about this another part of the NBA. A NBA book recently came out called Can't Knock the Hustle, and it's a long title, but that's the basic title. It's written by Matt Sullivan, and it covers Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving when they both left their respective teams, the Warriors and the Celtics, to join in Brooklyn with the Nets. And it covers the machinations of that, and covers what kind of power they wield and the dynamics of the organizations along with them over from 2020 to now, the 2020 season to now. It's really interesting look, and I thought that, like, the exit for Kyrie from Boston was something that people always want to know. How did it go so bad? You hear some things about him and Jaylen Brown, but you read or you see some of the excerpts, or you see some of the interviews from the guy Matt Sullivan, who wrote the book, who was with Kyrie and KD at different points over the last couple years, and covering the story. And it's really interesting. And, you know, like, Kyrie's one of those guys where, like, he says so many out there things that people do not like them. And once, also another thing, once you cross Boston, there's so many Boston media guys and ESPN like that's going to carry a lot of weight. So to get a, you don't really know what Kyrie is. He's so closed up. Because, you know, he doesn't really like the media, or, you know, and different things, rightfully and wrongfully. There's been situations where I thought things were overblown. But I think the retelling, or some of the news from it, as far as his grandfather had died. This is a person that had their mother die at a very young age. And it made him realize that, like, you know, basketball is secondary. Life is more important. And he thought about what could make him happy. And he thought about the history of Boston, and a conversation, you know, he had a conversation with Bill Russell as well. And Bill Russell told him he always thought of himself as playing for the Celtics, not Boston. And, you know, then he decided, you know, one day, when Kyrie or Durant was over, Durant was plotting his course, and they decided to link up, and, you know, more or less the rest is history from that perspective. And I thought it was interesting how, you know, knowing that, as opposed to just thinking, like, they've had this plan for, like a lot of people think that since 2008, like Wade, Bosh, and LeBron had it planned to leave. It's interesting to note is like, nah, he had his mind set on actually like sticking to what he said in that press conference about he wanted to be a Celtic, but then things changed because his granddad died and they had a different perspective. Like basketball's not everything, and it becomes what do you want in life? So I thought it was interesting. I thought some of the stuff with Durant and his conversation with Steve Kerr, and how millennial he is in a way. Like, just he can't put down the phone and just take in all the things people have to say with him on social media, about him on social media. And I hope that he's eventually figures out a way to make peace with that, or figures out a way to break that, because he's one of the 10 all-time talents in this sport. And like, by the time his career is over, he's going to be one of the 13, 14, 12 greatest basketball players of all time. He's already there, right? Everything else after this is icing on the cake. But I just hope that he can find a way to make peace with the rest of his career, because you look at what Scotty's doing right now, and whether or not Scotty is right or wrong, it does reek of bitterness. Like, he never really got over the fact that he was never better than Michael Jordan. And I think that if you're one of the 30 greatest basketball players of all time, you can't get over not being better than Michael Jordan, then, bro, like, I'm sorry, like, that's a rough life, because like, no one's ever gonna give you that. No one's ever gonna give you that. And I hope that KD can get over like trying to clap back at some dude with like 150 followers that's talking shit. I just really do. But yeah, like, I'll put a link into the description of the interview that Dan Le Batard did with Guy. And if you want to pick up the book, fine. But I'm definitely gonna order the book. But I thought it was just really illuminating of like what it is when you, like, if you're a top NBA level player and you can just fully just flex your muscle, what you can accomplish. We're a far cry from people losing their mind over a decision. We really are. Like, up to a lot of people, they are villains, but it's never the same where people gotta worry about someone running on the court and worry if they got a knife, even though they got patted down at the metal detector. But I guess now it's time to transition over to pro wrestling. I finally caught up. Pretty much after Double or Nothing, I was behind on all of the Wednesday Dynamite, or sorry, not Wednesday Dynamites, but like the weekend Dynamite stuff on Fridays and Saturdays. I caught up on the NXTs as well, and caught up on Stardom. So I guess we start with what we missed from not doing a show last week. We start with the round of cuts from this month in WWE. It feels like it's every month there's another round of cuts. I think it was about 14 people. Tony Nese, Arya Daivari, Everrise, Fandango, Kenneth Mobley, the writer that had just got hired and then got fired, August Gray, who was jobbing on NXT, Tyler Breeze, NXT Hall of Famer, Tyler Breeze, Bollywood Boys, Arturo Ruas, Kurt Stallion, Marina Shafir, Killian Dane, and Tino Sabatelli. It's crazy. Fandango and Breeze both seem like somebody that like we're going to have jobs forever in NXT, or just around. And now they're gone. I know Breeze has been running his own wrestling training thing for a minute. I don't know, what his plans are. I don't know what anybody's plans are out of this group of people that have been cut. Tony Nese is, former. I mean, he won the Cruiserweight title at WrestleMania a couple years ago. Kind of crazy. Daivari, as Rich calls him, the 205 legend, the 205 Live legend. Everrise, just a group of jobbers that they've had to be comedy geeks for the last, seemingly year and a half on TV. There was a time in late of last year where they seemed like they were on TV every single week, and like the show was struggling, and I was wondering why they were there. Hate to see him be fired. but I thought they, as a comedy act, they were of better use outside the ring than in the ring. They kind of figured out when they were doing the Ever-Rise Rules thing, where they were sneaking in for goofy little segments, almost kind of reminiscent of like the Fatch Police, but lo and behold, both of those teams are gone. Bollywood Boys, I mean, Jinder Mahal owes his entire, like, he owes everything to those two. They're taking those bumps and being at least the most interesting thing in like any of his title run he had that he never should have had in 2017. Sucks that they're gone. I felt like, you know, they could have been around to take bumps for everybody. Like Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton killed them. It was you know, interesting. The most interesting thing Jinder ever did. Marina Shafir, it stinks. It never worked out with her and Jessamine. Even though it should have, they never got enough TV time or enough reps in the Largo Loop to make it work. It's unfortunate. Killian Dane was in that goofy thing with Drake Maverick, and like they actually became like a decent tag team. They had decent matches. Killian Dane was always the person that tried hard. Ever since he came back to NXT in 2019, when for some reason he was going over Matt Riddle before we knew about Matt Riddle, but it sucks that he's gone. Married to Nikki Cross, another couple, you know. It is interesting to hear about the Nick Khan thing, where like he doesn't care about storylines, he doesn't care about relationships. Cut the fat. I'll take the heat for all of it. I don't care. And you know, a lot of these people, in the last, you know, in recent times, like they got squashed or destroyed. Like Fandango got destroyed by Imperium. Ever-Rise got their ass whooped by Hit Row. You know, so you kind of have an idea that about around the time when they decided they were going to get these people off TV in a certain kind of exacting way. So hope for the best for all of them. A lot of talent, a lot of them going to like refill the indies, or you know, end up somewhere else on TV like Impact or NWA or AEW. And a lot of these people are talented, so especially me, you know, Breeze. So Bollywood Boys, like there's an immediate BT thing right there to Bollywood Boys. Like, you're the Young Bucks, we're the Young Bucks. What now? Like, so hope for the best for all of them. Tino Sabatelli, like a lot of injuries, former NFL player. It sucks, and it doesn't seem like it's the end of it, even though this is like the third wave this year. It feels like maybe the fourth wave. Maybe I'm forgetting a wave, but they're on the way to having more waves of firings and than like waves of COVID we had. So whatever. IPO's going up. I think. I don't even know. I haven't looked, but yeah, it sucks for the industry. I guess it's now the time to talk about the actual wrestling. I guess we'll talk about the last two episodes of Dynamite. In particular, 3 matches. The first match will be the we as if it's 2 people, just me. I'll talk about is the Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy title match from last Saturday. Fantastic match. Just a fantastic match. One of the better matches in AEW history. I'm kind of getting tired of AEW doing the goofy finishes, but whatever. Kenny Omega, he hadn't had one of these in a minute. Not because he couldn't, just because they didn't want to, especially on pay-per-view when they book a 3-way. But like, I just find it more enjoyable to watch him in a single setting than a tag setting or a multiple person setting. And I think he got a lot out of Jungle Boy. I think it was a perfect match. Like, they didn't give you too much to make you think it's overkill, that it was ridiculous that Jungle Boy actually really, you know, was going to do it. I think you save that for a later time, where you put him the spot, you know, or segment in the match to where you feel like he can get a run to make you really bad on it. But, you know, like, he is someone that is great, but he's facing someone just better than him. And, he got One Wing Angel and neither. Like, I like the fact that he was able to escape the One Wing Angel once. I think he slapped on the snare trap at the time. There were 2 great near falls. I think one of them got screwed up by the cameraman, where they, you know, cut to Gallows and Anderson, while, you know, the champion is slapped into submission, desperate to make the ropes, and it kind of killed the crowd. It took the crowd from like an 11 to like a 7. And I don't know why they decided to do that, but either way, I thought it was a great match. I think it was a great match for Jungle Boy. He really needed that. I really hope that he gets into and breaks into the TNT title discussion, the title picture at some point, because he'd be a great person to put with Miro and be the person to topple Miro. I think Miro's, since we're now talking about him, I think that this run where he just fought Evil Uno and then he fought Pillman, I really enjoyed. I really... the Pillman match was very short and didn't go very long, but like I just like the juice that he has. I'm not necessarily saying that he's having the greatest matches in the world, but like he just feels so much better and more believable, and I feel like we're kind of on the track that we kind of had with him, where he started to get over with me and Rich late 2014, where it's like, I don't, like, yes, I get the push or whatever else, but like I'm not really compelled when he actually, the bell rings, and then he got in the ring with a Mark Henry, he got in the ring with a Big E Langston at the time, and that's when I started realizing like, oh, okay, I get it now, and like I'm actually enjoying what he's doing. Like this run that he's had since the TNT title has just been really fun in the ring. Like as far as the Redeemer gimmick, where he's like almost like a religious zealot, I could take or leave, but like I do appreciate the energy. He is giving I'm going to fuck you up energy. You know, who knows what's next for him? Who knows what's next for Jungle Boy? Like, you can do whatever with Jungle Boy. You can make him the next tag team champions with Luchasaurus if they wanted to. They can make him TNT champion. Like, they got a lot of options with him because he's just hot as fish grease. He just really is. And they're doing it with a dude that doesn't talk at all. Like, they have Christian doing the talking for him. They have Luchasaurus doing more talking than him. His opponent talks about how he doesn't talk. And it's okay because, like, he's just a likable person. And I think that is, like, the simplest thing with wrestling is like there are people that are just inherently likable in wrestling, and if you go with it and if you nurture it, it just gets over. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this person can't, you know, cut a promo like Adam Cole. It doesn't matter if this person can't like wrestle like Roderick Strong. If you have something that's inherently likable about you and you're a babyface, if it's nurtured right and it's taken care of, all it is just gas to a flame, and gas to a flame. So, I guess I don't want to transition to the Gulf of Mexico, but like, yeah, gas to flame. So yeah, other match I want to talk about is Eddie Kingston and Penta El Mero versus the Young Bucks. I think this was the best Young Bucks match of their slow descent, along with Kenny Omega, into some of the worst facial hair on television. But I really enjoyed this match. Just Kingston works very well with the Young Bucks. He doesn't kill them, but because he's so much bigger than them, like it looks like he's just mauling these guys at times. I think they do a good job with him no selling at times with them. The Young Bucks and Pentagon, like that's a match made in heaven. Like how many great matches do you need with Pentagon in a setting with Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson for you to realize like it's gonna go off without a hitch. It's just destined to be great whenever they get in the ring together. Those three with any other amalgamation, whether it's Pac, whether it's Kingston, whether it's Phoenix, it's just gonna work. So I thought that they did a good job foiling interference and getting the win, and they're going to have another match for the titles. I think I said Road Rager this coming week, I believe. But either way, I think that match will be better than the match he just had, but it was a great match. I ended up giving it, I think I gave it 4 flat. But it was a fun opening match. And it involving like the Young Bucks doing their goofy Macho Man stuff. But anyway, we'll move on. Match I really want to get to, third match. The main event of the last episode of Dynamite. MJF versus Sammy Guevara. There is something in MJF to where when he wrestles somebody that is in that same under 27 or 28 class of young up and comers, whether it's, we've seen it with Jungle Boy, we just saw it with Sammy, and we'll probably see it one day with Darby, but he stops being a freaking carny from Memphis, and he starts fucking wrestling modern style wrestling, or wrestling that people want to see, you know, that travel wrestling, if you will, travel indie wrestling, if you will. And it's just a blast to watch when he decides to like really, really wrestle, as opposed to do this fucking 80s stuff with cosplay shit with Cody or whatever else. It's just really fun. I think that's when he's at his best. He pretty much seemingly only does it like once a year, so maybe he should break it out like every review. Just a thought perhaps. But it was a blast to watch. I thought that Sammy's out of his goddamn mind. The spot that he does where he gets MJF over the barricade, number concrete and chairs and fans, goes to the top rope, and he front flip dives over the barricade onto MJF. MJF barely has to catch that torpedo and also land on that concrete, and also like not, you know, bounce his head off the concrete like Matt Hardy did against Sammy Guevara of all people. And you see it, and you see Sammy get up, and you see how bruised up his hip is and his thigh. You're just like, gotta protect your hips, man. Gotta protect your hips. You want to do this for a long time. Like that kind of trauma, that'll fuck you up. Like bad hips, more or less like bad spine. Eventually over time, but they did it. I hated the interference at the end. I wish they had just let MJF beat him. It's fine. Like, I know they wanted to give the 630 hope spot or whatever else, but there is a story in saying that, like, he can beat him eventually if he just hits his one move. Like, that is classic wrestling. If the babyface can win this match, can overcome if he can just hit his move in the eventual next match. I don't think it would have hurt Sammy to lose to MJF. MJF is one of the most well-protected people in AEW and in North American pro wrestling. I think it'd have been okay. But they decided to go that route. It was a huge damper for me, but I loved the match. I think I enjoyed that match up until the finish more than the Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy match. I think they're doing too many run-ins, but they kind of been doing too many run-ins ever since Kenny Omega won the title. Cherish your 4.25, 4.5 star match, and like if they could have gotten rid of some of the nonsense or whatever else, maybe he could have gotten a 4 3/4. But whatever, it's TV wrestling. But hell, great matches. As far as the future for AEW, I like that video that they did talking about their year and change in Jacksonville and Georgia with no fans for most of it. And, it looks like TV-wise, like almost like, I wouldn't say the level they were before, the pandemic came, because that was fish grease high. That was all-time wrestling. But it looks like they saved some things to then ramp up in quick succession going to All Out to get that kind of television on the road to All Out. I think that this road to get to Omega and Page is going to be special. I think that this Jericho MJF match is going to be a pivotal for the future of the company over the next 18 months, whenever we get it. I think that FTR versus Santana Ortiz is going to be potentially like the beginning of the best like non-Young Bucks feud in tag team AEW history. I think a lot of signs pointing up for AEW going into the next couple months. I would love Moxley to be back. Like, I think that the Cody and QT, Cody slumming it with QT needs to stop. But in the women's division could do a little work. Could use a secondary storyline or something better than what they've done with Nyla and Britt for a title match as far as the program. But I think when the match gets there, it'll be a better match. I like their match in the Eliminator beginning of the year. But I think the storyline kind of stinks. But it's unfortunate what happened to Rebel. It's been unfortunate, a lot of injuries that I've seen over the last week or so. But hope Rebel gets well soon. Because she's a good heater for Britt. Even though everyone loves her, she's a big star, right? Seemingly in the or one of the biggest stars. Seemingly as far as crowd reaction, they don't want to boo her even when she cheats. But it's unfortunate what happened to Rebel, and I hope she gets well soon. I haven't seen what her diagnosis was, but seeing how she collapsed, seeing how her knee hit the mat and her leg was turned outwards. I imagine that's maybe an HCL thing. I mean, I don't know, but hopefully she'll get well soon. She need to take these bumps for Britt. Yeah. So unless I'm forgetting any, Christian Cage and Matt Hardy. They're telling a decent story with that. They're building a decent story towards that. I'm worried about the match with Christian. Christian ain't missed yet in AEW in the ring. So, I'm worried that Matt Hardy might be out here to spoil the no-hitter. But we'll see how that goes. Darby versus the Coffin match, actually. The Coffin match is interesting. There's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors in that, but they've done good smoke and mirrors with Darby and Sting. So, interested to see how that match goes. Trying to think what else is on the card to talk about in the future. I think that may be it. If I forget something, I'm sorry. I'm doing this all off the top of the head. So, I guess from this point, we'll just transition over to the team that lost the Wednesday Night Wars and now is on Tuesday, tucking its tail. NXT. It is quite frustrating how they could have just a good takeover in a vacuum, but a bad takeover compared to other takeovers, and then immediately proceed to give you the good shit following what they did. That tornado tag that should have been on TakeOver that they took off to fit in Mercedes versus Xia Li, the number one contender, basically the facto number one contendership match, number one contendership tornado tag match between Thatcher and Ciampa versus the Grizzly Young Vets was a fantastic match. It was they didn't make tags, but the way they built it, it was basically a tag match. There was no weapons, there was no cheating. Or not cheating, but there was no using weapons and turning into a hardcore match. It was basically a tag match where someone got sent out and someone would fill in the ring. It's almost like a Lucha Rules thing, except it wasn't with flips. It was with fists and chops and strikes and holds, and it was fantastic. I think I ended up giving it 4 or 4.25. I can't remember, but it's a fantastic match. And tomorrow they'll be facing MSK for the NXT Tag Team titles. They did a stare down face-to-face thing on last week's episode of NXT. Really interesting. Ciampa has all that history talking about what he does with titles. He elevates them. The crowd, knowing the Goldie, knowing the DIY run, they just in agreement that dude is NXT First Ballot Hall of Famer, and MSK has to stand up to that and stand up to a lot of people that do not like them that much for some weird reason in NXT. And I think by the end of it, you have it wasn't 50-50, but 60-40, 65-35, better than when they were out here getting, from these weird NXT hardcore fans, booing them when their babyfaces tagging with other babyface stars in trios matches. So, that match is going to be awesome. Let's see, moving on from there. I like how they got the division for the women's division, tag division, together. Io comes back. She wins a match. Dakota wants to be a champion again. Raquel's with everything. Dakota's wants to please Dakota for some weird reason. She wants more gold. She wants to become the tag champions again. You have Shotzi and Ember, who are number one contenders rightfully. And Io comes back and wins the match. Candice, who still has old country beef with Io, talks about how the tables have turned because now she's the champion. And obvious heel tactic. Heel is threatened by someone better than them. They want to attack her. Tying back nicely to Zoe's debut match in NXT, where she gave Io a little bit of a run. Zoe comes out, makes a save, and then out comes Raquel and Dakota, because Raquel doesn't want Io back here, because it's only natural that Io will want a title rematch. They come out based off of what's happened with Dakota and Raquel and Ember and Shotzi. They come out, and you have 4 women all brawling it out. This is also with all of the nonsense going on with the Bedlam inside of Full Sail / the LA Fitness. Regal comes out and says, "Hey, you're the champions. You're going to face the eventual winner of a number 1 contendership match between Io and Zoe, Raquel and Dakota, and Shotzi and Ember." And last week they had number 1 contendership match, and man, that was a blast to watch. It was basically like a cross between a PWG match or a Young Bucks match and like a Stardom's Trios match, where it's just fast pace. The fast pace and the thought and the stories that tie and link between all these personalities colliding of a Stardom match, but with like just an innumerable amount of dives, floor dives that would be in a Young Bucks match or a PWG match. It was a great blend. At the end, Io ends up winning with moonsault on Dakota, even though Dakota, like before then, had like just a great near fall on Io. I ended up giving that match 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It's one of the more enjoyable matches I've seen in WWE / NXT in the last few months. So you end up getting a Great American Bash, another tag title match, but for the women's titles. Io and Zoe, just really good chemistry already, versus Candice and Indy. And I guess, be prepared to add this to the Io and Candice legacy of NXT rivalries. So that's fun. That's on deck. Interesting what they did with all of the fighting leading to Regal teasing a retirement. He comes out. He seems so heartfelt, so emotional. You really think he's going to say goodbye. And out comes Cross, and Cross cuts him down and says, "You're not meant for this job. I told you that this is my NXT. This is my ring. You're pathetic." Then all of a sudden you hear that fake Simon Says, and you know what it is. Samoa Joe comes down to the ring and says, "Hey, you brought me in. You wanted to discuss something with me. I'm here." And Regal says, "Well, I want to discuss this after or off camera, but we discuss it here. I think I'm over my head. I think this is beyond me now. This is beyond me. I want you to take over." Joe, after this, and after he actually went face to face with Cross, says, "Absolutely not. But I will basically be an enforcer here." So Regal says, "If that's what you want to do, all right. If you want to be the in school suspension teacher, sure." And he says, under one rule, you cannot attack it or harm anybody. And Cross cuts his big shit-eating grin, and then Regal, he gives him the hook, "unless provoked." And then that face goes from a smile to a face of worry and concern. This, it's so funny that we talk about how Triple H is vanity booking people, like how, we thought that he was like vanity booking Rhea, and he's vanity booking Cross. But when Cross did that smile in front of the Authority member's face, and then it went away once what he thought he had over that person got took away, and it turns into scares, fear and insecurity. Like, it was just classic, like, 2001 Triple H of just like, he's soft. He's not really about that action. So I thought it was a nice touch, and he's been cleaning up the culture. He's been cleaning up the locker room, and like a lot of people have been trying to clean the locker room. I don't know, I bet it's a storyline. Who gives a shit about locker room culture? All these people are cutthroat assholes. Anyway, there was a fight they had. Before we get to that, Samoa Joe accepts, and then he says, so that leaves me with one question. He walks straight up the cross and says, what are you still doing in this ring? And it's like, I can't believe I want to see a Samoa Joe carrying cross match in 2021. Like, maybe this was 2018 Samoa Joe and carrying cross right now, but like, Joe's that kind of guy on the promo. Like, the attitude, the voice, the face, the scowl, like, he always presents himself so well. Like, he will be like 15 years from now, he can still get you to want to buy a match. Like, he's that kind of guy. He just always has been that guy. But speaking of the matches I want to see him have, later on in that show, they show O'Reilly and Cole going at it. Per the rule, Joe's just there to separate them. He's in there to separate them. And then Cole shoved Joe. Joe didn't like it. He put Cole's ass to sleep. So Cole's been pissed about it ever since. And let's talk about that while we're here. Cole versus O'Reilly 2 at Great American Bash. On the Go Home show last week, they went face to face. Cole says to him, "You are obsessed with me." O'Reilly is incredulous and says, "I'm obsessed with you? I beat you. You were gone for 6 weeks. You came back and attacked me. Who's obsessed?" And then he turns it. He doesn't turn it, but like, it points out like he's really the one that's insecure. And worried about his spot. Cole says, "I'm the star. Ever since we've been here for 4 years, I've been carrying you. You wouldn't be in the industry if it was for me. All your high moments, your tag titles, your war games have been me next to you." And then he says, like, "I'm the star." And he's basically going full on David Ruffin. He goes, "These fans know it. Samoa Joe knows it. You know it. And even your wife knows it." O'Reilly is about to blow his stack. Samoa Joe's in between them to stop them from fighting. O'Reilly is about to call him a POS, but a piece of shit. But Cole slaps the mic out of his hand, and then he goes to attack Cole. Cole goes to attack O'Reilly. But while doing so, he almost hit Joe, but Joe, because he's the coolest motherfucker alive apparently, he sidesteps the nonsense. He sidesteps the attack. And next thing you know, O'Reilly has Cole in the heel hook. He's screaming it, and he's telling Joe, "Get him off me, get him off me. You're supposed to break this up." But because Cole more or less took a swing at Joe, Joe just gets out the ring, walks out, and tells security that's on the ramp, "Y'all break it up." I thought it was a great sell, and it lets you know, like, if it's gonna be choke for Cole if he slaps on that heel hook. He just tapped. I think this match will be even better than their takeover match. Like, that match is as great as it is flawed, but I think in a singles thing where like it's confined to just their brilliance of between those two, I think 4.5 is the over under. That's what they do. More Joe conflict. He's been going face to face with and interacting with Pete Dunne. It's been scowl to scowl, which has been funny because like neither one of them went back down the inch when it comes to the stare down. As far as Gargano, Johnny is playing it like, "I want no smoke with Big Joe." He got it. Whatever you say, boss, I'm good. He wants no smoke, but he is basically sucking up being the teacher's pet, just a smarmy asshole to Regal and Joe, because he realized that like Joe has beef for all these other people that he hates, so he's like, I'm going to try to manipulate to get him to on my side to like me, but he's like, But Joe's smart. He's realized, like, I'm not putting up with that nonsense from y'all. I hate all y'all. The way to he has figured out something that Regal has yet to figure out. The way to effectively handle all of these dudes is to realize they're all the enemy. Do none of them favors. They're all jerks. So he's been big leaguing them more or less. When he's been reached his hand out, ask for help, he's like, hey, you want to? Hey, do me a favor. Leave the office. Get out. And Joe, and then Austin Theory and Gargano just like, rightio, I'm out of here. Later. But as far as Gargano, it looks like him and Cross are going to go at it pretty soon. Don't know it's for an NXT title, but they've been attacking each other from behind in these over and over and over. So it's just a matter of time before they have a match. So I guess that means that Pete Dunne is on the back burner. I'm okay with that. Like, I think Dunne should be the person that gets the title shot at a takeover. You know, Gargano, he's somebody you can beat and move on. Like, he's in a utility role. So it's like, you know, put Gargano in there with Cross, try to have a awesome match with him and move on. And if you have a great match with him, that's success. Like, I don't really see the downside in it for TV. It seems like a television match to me. I guess now it's time to talk about Swerve and Hit Row. They're great, man. They're just great. And so much charisma is oozing off all four of them. I like all the roles. I like that. I like that in these tag matches, these tag match squash match that they're having that with Top Dollar and Adonis. That like Adonis is a hothead. The second you get any kind of anything on him, he's just ready just to like, you know, get DQ'd on a 5 count. He's just that kind of mad, and Top Dollar has to calm him down. But then Top Dollar can like, the same thing happened to him, and he handles it differently. Like, he'll just like beat you up as opposed to like just push you to death, beat you to death in the corner. And I just like that as a tag team for the future in the division coming up. I like Swerve becoming the NXT champion or NXT North American champion. I thought that match that they had was very good. It was short, but you know, given that the finish, I'd rather you go short and with a pretty lame finish than long with a lame finish. Like, somebody has to stop with like and overdo it with heels winning via these tactics. Like, we get it, like, but we want to see who is the best. And like, this is too old school stuff. Like, it's okay to beat somebody. I promise you, it will be okay. It's not in the world if someone loses one big match. I promise you, especially Bronson Reed. But yeah, it was a really good match between those two. I think it was the best match those two have had in NXT, which is saying something. They've had a few matches that have been very good. Unless I'm forgetting that Swerve was in that North American ladder match, but I don't think he was. But I know that Gargano and Reed were. But outside of that, I think this was their best match. So yeah, looking to the future with Swerve is gonna be fun because that division has a lot of great guys, and like, he can finally get his rematch with Phantasm and finally win. Like, because they both can cheat. Like, you could make a storyline similar to the Tam and Julia storyline, where it's like, you beat me because you have a team around you. I realize I need to have my own team to then like reach your level. Like, once you become a leader of people, then you can kind of grow as your own performer, wrestler, whatever you want to call it, sports entertainer, what have you. Don't know if they'll do that, but I do know that like Legado is over with the Full Sail LA Fitness crowd, so they could switch that and make it, you know, babyface Legado, because, you know, you can see those promos that Phantasm has cut over the past month or so, where he's like talking about like the future of Lucha Libre and his family and what he wants to leave to his son. Like, those are kind of babyface promos. Like, I understand he's supposed to come because he's a heel, but like, the subject matter in those are like, you want to leave something for the future for your kid. Like, who sounds like a good guy to me, even if it's just by ill-gotten means. But you can say he's an anti-hero, which is what NXT loves. So you can get away with that. But you know, I think that it's appropriate, and I can't wait for like these big takeover matches for Swerve, because that's a dude that is like in that bubble of guys that have yet to really be a regular on NXT takeovers. He's the best guy that gets, you know, that's been around that has a tenure there. Like, he's been around since 2019. Speaking of that, the breakout tournament is back. It'll be here in either 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Can't forget which one it was, but it was definitely said 2 or 3 weeks from now. And they showed highlights of Swerve and Joaquin Wilde and Grimes and Bronson Reed and Garza. And it left out the winner, Jordan Miles, because, you know, they gave that, in the words of Miss, a friend of the show, Tanya, they gave that man a nigger shirt. But yeah, like, it was cool to see, like, the flashback and see, like, you know, it took 2 years, but I felt like it would have took less than that. But, like, you know, they're there and they're steady foundational pieces of NXT. So that was cool. I felt like it should take 1 year. It should have taken 1 year instead of 2, but we're here. And, you know, that's kind of the thing with NXT. You could have said the same thing for Riddle and Keith Lee back in 2018, 2020. So, yeah, I feel like after after just a good takeover, they righted the ship, which was like the frustrating part, because we knew that that's what they were going to do at the top of the card, was they were going to fix this immediately, and they were going to have a Great American Bash that was going to probably kick that takeover's ass, which is like ass backwards in, you know, my opinion. But it is what it is. But, you know, I expect tomorrow to be a very good show, one of the better NXT shows of the year, which is saying something, because they've had some of the best shows in all of pro wrestling this year. Yeah, I'm not trying to think if there's anything I'm forgetting for NXT. I think that's about it. Yeah, so you can move on. And I guess because Rich isn't here, I will tell myself to hit the music. I feel like it's been a few weeks since the last time we updated Stardom. I think the last place we left off was the last pay-per-view from June 12th. You know, we didn't do a show last week, so we couldn't preview this pay-per-view, and we probably couldn't have done that because I didn't finish getting up the go-home show until like Thursday. So much for that. Anyway, Yokohama Dream, Cinderella 2021 in summer. Yes, that is a super long pay-per-view title, but whatever. It's not in the native language. On 4th of July, yes, I stayed up until 7:30, 7:40, 7:50 to watch it in its entirety. A good pay-per-view, not a great pay-per-view. 6 matches. 4 of them were at least good. The main event was a bummer, not because of the wrestling, but because there was a devastating injury. But we'll get into it. Just talk about the build going into it. I think that the most important things, one was the transition of Starlight Kid into Oedo Tai, or a corporation of her into Oedo Tai, over the, I think it was like 6 or 7 shows, something like that. Over that time, she had basically more or less did not want to take part of the Oedo Tai heel cheating tactics. She wouldn't second anybody to the ring in Oedo Tai. When someone would cheat, she would literally get off the apron and walk away from it. She didn't want any parts of it. It reached a breaking point where she ended up losing a match to Azumi, where she was in trouble. And they did the Oedo Tai charge in the corner, where someone's in the corner, someone charges, they duck out the way, and then a swarm of, normally in trios, multiple matches, Oedo Tai swarms the person in the corner and then hits like 5 moves or whatever else and gets a near fall. But it's definitely a momentum changer. Anyway, they ended the DQ because it was a singles match. At the end of it, Natsuko Tora tells Starlight Kid, none of this half and half stuff. Like, you've been wearing this mask that's half all black and the other half's all half colorful, symbolizing like you still want to, you know, be tied to Stars, but you're not going back to Stars. You're with us, and it's time to embrace it. And they've done this in similar ways and fashions when bringing somebody into a new faction. Most notably that I remember with Hazuki from Queen's Quest into Oedo Tai and her eventual turn to what she had became until she retired. And this was over 3 weeks. It was a very good build. The symbolism, the finishes and matches. And then basically by the go-home show, she's wearing the all-black mask, and she was basically in her old glittery Stardom gear, but wearing a big Oedo Tai purple shirt over it the whole time. And we'll get back to that in a second. We'll transition on to other stories to build the pay-per-view. You had Saya versus Tam in the build-up. They had been going back and forth for a while, pretty much before she won the tournament. With those two having matches and basically outpost matches, and it was very good. Unfortunately, over the weekend before, Natsuko, in building up her match with Utami, finished Kamatari by hitting her with a seated senton off the top rope, very similar to the Rey Mysterio seated senton that you see, except she basically like hit it and didn't land on her feet. She more or less hit it and basically like rode it like a wheelie. She basically rode Kamatani down to the mat like a wheelie and bruised her ribs or whatever, and she was taken off the tour for the last two shows the week before to try to get much time to recuperate before a match with Tam. Natsuko versus Utami, been just basically attacking Utami at different times during after show press conferences, attacking her during matches. They actually had an outpost match that had those two in it, and it was very good. It was about the most inspired I've seen Natsuko wrestle since maybe since Kagetsu in 2019 Grand Prix, where she beat the hell out of Kagetsu and then lost at the very end. But I actually had optimism for their match. It just didn't, unfortunate injury. I'm trying to think of other stories. Oh, main story. The best story, actually. The future title final between Unagi and Mina. Nice bit of long form storytelling. In the beginning of this year, Mina got her nose broken and she was taken off shows until she came back at the March 3rd Budokan Hall show, where she ended up finishing third in the Stardom All-Star Battle Royal that Unagi won by beating Yuzuki Akawa, the first major draw in Stardom. And the storyline is that Mina, when she basically fought her way back, like Edge, she fought her way back so that she could get into the All-Star Battle Royal and be the one to go one-on-one with Yuzupon, and that ended up going to Unagi because those were the final three: Yuzupon, Unagi, and Mina. And Yuzupon knocked out and eliminated Mina, so it was then just Yuzuki and Unagi ended up winning. So she felt like she had her moment that she had been working for and fought back for 2 months to get back to, was taken from her. While she was gone, Unagi has gained XP, experience points in the RPG by, being in that 7-match trial series where she got her ass whooped 7 times by various Stardomers, from Shuri to Mayu to Julia to B to Konami to Azumi. She just got thrashed, but you can see her progressing in the ring, ever so slightly. Anyway, once you got to Budokan, where you have Tam winning the white belt, Mina and Unagi in the final 3 of the Battle Royal, they went immediately into putting those 3, because they're the trios champions, back out into defending their titles. And Mina's one of the most improved wrestlers from 2020 to 2021 in the world. She is like gone from somebody that I thought was a bore to watch to genuinely like being like just trusting her in tag matches. She had a match a couple pay-per-views ago with Momo. That was a very good match. I'm giving 3.5 stars. And if you had told me that she was gonna have a 3.5 star match on a big pay-per-view back in November, after watching for a month, I'd have been like, no fucking way. But she's improved that much. So hats off to her. So the story is that she had her moment stolen from her. Mina had her moment stolen from her by Unagi, her own teammate, her own faction mate, her own co-champion. And then Unagi ends up beating Shiri in the the quarterfinal round, or the Elite 8 round of the Cinderella tournament, by eliminating Shiri over the top rope. So she ended up making the semifinals for the Cinderella tournament. So she feels like, stole my moment. She's getting more, she's getting more reps than me. She's advancing further in tournaments than me. I'm the number 2 in Cosmic Angels. She was a distant third, and now I feel like the gap is closing. I'm feeling like I may be possibly getting surpassed. And you see them over the last pretty much ever since those two got announced or made it to the finals for the vacant future belt. Like, you see them both like at odds, and they told this interesting story where it seemed like they were so at odds that they were, in their latest defense for the trios belts, they were going to lose right before the pay-per-view. It seemed like they were just destined to lose them. But ultimately, the story ended up being that Unagi ends up winning that match by getting the pinfall. The interesting thing is that, like, in their history together, in these trios matches, these title defenses for the trios belts, it's either been Tam or Mina have won every match via pinfall, via submission, what have you. They've always been the person to win the match. Unagi finally wins it, and it shows like, wow, she's actually like, maybe all this insecurity that Mina has, like, maybe it's there. And Mina, like, after they win, like, she's sad. Like, she starts crying because she's like, I'm being surpassed. And after the match, she cut the promo, and like, they start arguing with it. She's like, what's been wrong? And, it comes to a point where Mina's like so mean to Unagi that Unagi's like gets on the mic and like she's about to start fighting. It's like, why are you being so mean? What has happened to you? Like, you have completely changed ever since like this thing has happened. And Tam's there. Tam knows all about babyface dysfunction, dating back to 2019 stuff with Arisa and Mayu. And Mayu being the leader, and she just let that shit boil over until they finally had that awesome match in 2019, where that actually settled it. And Tam is just there, is like, with the experience of like, I've seen this before. I've lived this before, and she calms them down, and they agree to like let it go for now until their match at the pay-per-view. But you can still see that like there's differences to be settled in the ring, and that's pretty much the build to that pay-per-view. Anyway, the first match was a gauntlet tag match. It's an okay match. It's not good. It's like a 2.5 thing, maybe. But at the end, like, it's a bunch of young girls. It's like Konami tagging with, I believe it's Def Yamasan, or Fukigen Def, sorry, the clown. It had Rina, it had the Hannah sisters in it in different formations, whatever else. But ultimately, I believe Konami in the clown ended up winning the match. And then you actually get into the meat of the show. My God, you actually get to like the matches you were anticipating. You end up getting Starlight Kid in her new look tagging with Roka, which is I think is the biggest match of her career at that point, versus Momo Inazumi. And Starlight Kid comes out with new gear, new mask, new hair, new everything, and it's like it's basically like, all right, she's always been like the female Tiger Mask, and now it's like, okay, female Tiger Mask meets Selena Kyle, meets Felicia Hardy, the Catwoman, Black Cat from the comic books, and like I think it's a really good marriage of all of those identities put together for a character or whatever else in a costume. I thought it was cool. Azumi and Starlight Kid in the ring. You already know what that is. It's just excellent wrestling, excellent fast-paced wrestling. Roka lately has been using some type of box to hit people over the head with. It's a hollow box. It's almost like hitting someone with a cookie sheet to hit someone over the head for deciding win. They tried it in this match. Momo thwarts it, and Azumi Momo actually kicks it into Roka. Azumi ends up rolling her up and gets the win. Good match, and I'm somewhere between 3.25, 3.5, but not bad for a second match on a pay-per-view. Next match after that, you get the Futures final between Mina and Unagi, and match is okay for the first half, and then eventually they get up and they just start throwing blows, and it's very good. It's excellent, actually. They tease hitting each other with their finishes. Unagi has this crazy finish where she basically almost has like a one-arm double underhook where she lifts you up and almost hits you in basically drops you in like a falcon arrow from there. It's really cool looking how she slaps it, locks it in, and then brings you under and then picks you up and drops you. Mina avoided that. Mina ended up getting her into the ropes and hits an elevated from the corner DDT like Randy Orton, except from the corner instead of the middle of the ropes. And then she gets her up for another implant DDT, ends up getting the win. Mina wants to extend her hand because she's just pretty much a sore loser, a spoiled winner anyway. That's the best way to say it. It's a spoiled winner because she won. Unagi says it's all right because I eliminated Shuri in the Cinderella tournament, so I want a shot against her for her SWA belt, which is that ain't what you want. That ain't what you want. You don't want to come for Shuri's belt because Shuri will kick your fucking head off. But she got it, and she says, and Mina says to her eventually, when the time is right, come back and get another title shot at this, another crack at this. So I think, as a story between two friends or whatever else, I think it's pretty compelling. Moving on, you end up getting Julia and Shuri versus Mayu and Kaguma. This is Kaguma's second pay-per-view. She pretty much debuted or came back basically 4 weeks ago. She's been good. She's in there with Mayu. Obviously, you can see the skills that she's had and what they were, and she's knocking rust off. But this match, let's just give you a backstory. They end up getting this match for the tag titles after they had a match on the tour, and Kaguma actually schoolboyed Julia, and Julia was furious. So she said, "I want another piece of you. I'll give you a title shot for it." Or I think Kaguma was like, "I just pinned one of the tag champions in the tag match. Give me a tag title shot." And Julia was like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you because you embarrassed me." So, match is really good. Match is great. Especially once you get Mayu and Shuri in the ring to start, just trading off wrestling. End up getting Julia is basically Mayu and Shuri have their own match, and then Kaguma and Julia have their own match, which is the best starting matches, tag matches are, where people just get paired off together. So there's a moment in the match the fourth fifth of the match where Mayu just keeps dropping these huge forearms into Shuri's chest over and over and over, to the point where one hand is on her hair, the other one just dropping forearms, and it just keeps putting Shuri further and further into the ground, to the mat, to where it almost feels like Mayu's gonna pull some of Shuri's hair out. That's how violent these strikes are, and how much her body's moved from these strikes. Shuri fights back. Mayu hits a huge super kick, hits the ropes, and actually a kick, spinning back kick, hits the ropes. Shuri lifts her up in a fireman's carry position, and then hurls her in the air and then like drops almost like a backstabber step into Mayu's gut. It was just gross. And then it was just awesome. They ended up having a double down. I can't remember the rest of the sequence to get out of it, but it was an awesome moment. And then they basically get carried home all the way home with Julia and Kaguma. And Kaguma, for a person that has been wrestling for like maybe a month and maybe 5 weeks since she hadn't wrestled before in front of people in like 6 years, she was great with Julia. They traded back and forth, slaps. There was a raw shoot headbutt on the top rope. There was a tease of a Tower of Doom spot. Mayu thwarted the Tower of Doom spot, and then later in the match, they do the Tower of Doom spot to Kaguma. Kaguma kicks. There's a spot where it looks like Mayu's been taken out by Shuri. Shuri's in the ring with Julia to take out Kaguma for the final count. Kaguma thwarts it. Mayu comes back in, gets Shuri out the ring, and Kaguma ends up going for that schoolboy. And this time Julia kicks. And then at the end, Julia lays her out and gets her back up and hits almost like a package brain, not brain buster, like a package, trying to think. It was almost like a package fisherman buster. That's the best way to explain it. Ended up getting the win. Really, really fun match. I ended up giving 4 flat stars. Then you end up getting the white belt match, Tam versus Saya Kamatani. And this was a fun match. It wasn't a match I thought I was going to get based off of what they did in Outpost, but given how beat up Saya was, I understand why I went this way. At the press conference, Tam said, "Should we give you more time, Saya, for your title defense, because you're beating up with the ribs after Natsuko landed on her a week ago." And she says, "Nah, run it." Tam Bay says, "All right." Tam put on a clinic on them damn ribs, bro. It was almost like watching Tanahashi work over the legs, except it was the core. It was just work, not back body drops, but back breakers. Tam slapped on a camel clutch and then reached around Saya's side to basically do like a camel clutch with an abdominal stretch attached to it, and then with her free hand, she's throwing her elbow into her taped ribs, putting her hand into the taped ribs. Saya has to fight to the ropes. There's a spot where Saya ribs is so bad that she goes to the outside. Tam immediately jumps to the top rope and dives with a crossbody to the floor onto the ribs. Just great selling. Flashback and rewind to how Saya won this tournament. In the first round, it was Tam versus Saya. And Saya eliminated Tam when Tam and her on the apron, and Tam hits a suplex on the apron and then goes to the ring and hits the ropes on the opposite side and comes back and charges. And as she charges, Kamatani hits a springboard Arabian Hurricane Rana to pull Tam out of the ring and onto the floor. Awesome spot. So later in the match, when it looks like Saya's done, she pulls out a West Coast Pop for a near fall. It was awesome. Or not a full West Coast Pop where it's like the rotation in the air, but like a Hurricane Rana to pinfall and the Rana cradle for a near fall. Tam kicks out of that. There's a spot where Tam goes for the bicycle knee, the Daniel Bryan bicycle knee, or the Kenta bicycle knee. Gets trap blocked, and Saya comes underneath it and hits a big move. Saya actually hits her finish, a well-protected finish, Star Crusher. Star Crusher is basically a Falcon Arrow, a Fisherman Falcon's Arrow. Tam kicks Saya, her nickname is Golden Phoenix. She does a Phoenix Splash, drags her to the corner, goes for a Phoenix Splash. It was ugly. The spot was supposed to be that she goes to land and Tam gets the feet up and she ends up hitting her in the ribs. She mistimed it. Tam gets her feet up. It pretty much, like, Saya completely missed her, but Tam basically hit her in the, like, neck, chest, head, whatever else. Tam goes for a dragon suplex. Saya kicks. Tam goes up and tries to give her her other elaborate suplex bridging pin. She fights to the ropes. Tam unleashes on her. It's a slap battle back and forth, but Tam is up besting her and then ends up hitting her with the her elaborate German suplex bridge pin thing for the win. Great match. I ended up giving it 4 1/4. I did not detail to you how hard these two women were slapping each other. Like, it's a thing with Tam in these big matches where, whether it's Julia at Budokan in March, whether it was the Natsupoi match back in April, in these big white belt matches, eventually at some point Tam is going to have a slap battle to the death with someone, and she's 3-0 in those. Eventually she's going to lose one of these slap battles. It'll probably be the Kamatani down the line, but either way, really fun match. I think it went like 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Either way, they ended up being the best match of the night. I guess we go to the main event, red belt match. Utami versus Natsuko. Like I said, I had reasons for optimism in this match, given what their outpost matches were, given how hard Natsuko was working. And they were wrestling well to start off, and it went, about 11 minutes. I think that they end up doing this spot building towards the spot where they're wrestling. They end up outside the ring via Oedo Tai shenanigans as always. Momo's on commentary. And you have Hina and you have Azumi cornering Utami. Everybody in the other 29 members of Oedo Tai are at ringside. They help cheat. The ref doesn't want to call the DQ in the title match main event, obviously. Oedo Tai ends up beating up Queen's Quest and Utami as well until they go underneath the ring and they pull out a table. They situate the table right by a corner, by a post. They go to lay Utami on it. Momo, who's on commentary, calling the last 2 or 3 matches of the show, comes off commentary to make the save for her friend who's been put on the table. She clears them out until Natsuko gets her steel rod, and she ends up hitting Utami and Momo with it. She lays Utami on the table. Utami, when she comes to the ring, she pretty much does the Bret Hart-ish type of move where she comes down to the ring with a rose, and she presents the rose to a female fan in the crowd. At Budokan Hall, she presented the rose to Akira Hokuto. There was actually during this tour, there's a time where she gave a rose to this huge Utami fan who had a Utami picture and Queen's Quest Utami gear and all that kind of stuff. And when she handed it to the lady, she was so geeked up. She was so happy. And then like later in the show, Natsuko actually took the rose from the lady, and the lady like she's going to cry. And then later on, Natsuko just threw the rose out the ring, and then the ref gave the rose back to her. So I thought it was cool that she could get heat without like fucking up a fan's experience. It reminded me of Sasha versus what Sasha did to Izzy at their Iron Woman match at TakeOver. That's besides the point. Back to the lecture at hand. She takes that rose from ringside that she presented to, I think it was the female on commentary. I can't remember her name. Anyway, takes it, puts it in her mouth, bites down on it, climbs to the top rope, and hits the frog splash, or not frog splash, just hits a splash off top rope to the floor, to the table on the floor. The coolest moment of Natsuko Toru's career that I've ever seen, by far and away. It was awesome. I'm like, okay, this match is off to a great start. We're like 10, 11 minutes in. This is great. So Natsuko's up on the apron talking shit, and Utami's just destroyed, and we're just like, oh my god, the champion, this great champion is like on the ropes. Like, that's the intrigue of this match now, because you have to believe that Natsuko actually has a chance, and they got you there with that spot, that devastating spot. Natsuko comes off of the apron to hit basically a diving foot stomp, single leg foot stomp onto Utami. Something got misjudged, something got mistimed, but basically she lands with her foot striking on Utami, and her foot slid, and as her right foot slid, like her right knee, her left knee buckled, and as her left knee buckled, she crumpled to the floor and grabbed her knee, and I was like, no. She's blew out her fucking knee. And it wasn't like some Willis McGahee, Sean Livingston freakish knee thing. It was very like, if you watch enough sports or have been unfortunate enough to see like these kind of injuries, you can kind of see like if the knee just buckles in just a little bit at a certain angle, that's enough to make a ligament snap. And her knee buckles, she grabs it. Ref immediately comes down because she fell, she crumpled. Ref gets the doctor is testing her knee. You can see she's in so much pain, and this is the biggest match of her career, and she wants to get up to fight. She tries to get up, and as she gets up, she falls. So you know it's no good. And you see the ref Daichi talking to Rossi, the booker, and about what to do. And you already know what time it is. You're just like, they're about to just call this match a ref stoppage or a doctor stoppage, and claim or proclaim Utami the winner. Like in Stardom history, it's happened before. Like actually, Toni Storm won the red belt because not Utami, but Mayu, she dislocated her elbow in like 7 minutes into a red belt match. And they just handed it over, and you can see like at that time you can see like all people talking back and forth what to do, and Rossi basically saying like award the belt to Toni Storm, and Chris Wolf is like translating to her what they're telling her, like, you're now the red belt champion. You see the shock on her face, but you can see like that same look of like, what, my main event title pay-per-view match got just fucked to Utami. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, we just got to the good part of the match. We actually got y'all hooked. And they called for the bell. And like Natsuko, she literally tries to jump up, and like everybody else in Oedo Tai literally jump on her to keep her down, to keep her from trying to do it. And they eventually give her the mic. I don't know what she said, but you could tell she's just hurt. She's hurt. It like, is her shot. Like, that's the thing in Stardom. Like, why I was so intrigued by like the TAM run is like, in Stardom, if you are not a champion, you get a title shot once every 6 months, generally speaking. Whether it's a white belt or red belt, you normally get a title shot once every 6 months. So between all them tags you do, aside from the G1 to get a big time singles match, you got one of those to look forward to in a 6 month span, generally speaking. And Natsuko was somebody that up until she became the leader of Oedo Tai, she never got those. Like, I think her first red belt shot was this year. That match stunk, but like that was her first one. And to finally get her second shot, this time for the red belt, it's a pay-per-view main event. Who knows when she's ever, if she's ever going to get another title shot. This is the biggest match of her career, and just like it finally had a crowd hooked in a way, and like had that effort level there. And she's somebody that like I'm not a fan of. Like like I think that she is I think that I have an issue with her effort level at times. I think that she only really tries when it's pay-per-view or when it's a main event of one of these Road to shows. But you put her in a big spot and you see the effort level, and she'll try, and like she could be a good wrestler when she wants to be, and she was bringing it. And it really sucks that this happened to her. I think earlier today they announced that it was in fact the ACL tear on her left knee. So that's now the third ACL tear in Stardom in the last since October of last year when Jungle went down. Coincidentally, wrestling Natsuko. Natsuko more or less tore Jungle's ACL. So it sucks. Because like, I'm not the biggest fan of her, but like, in Stardom, everybody has favorites, and for a lot of people like Oedo Tai, they like the shenanigans in wrestling, and Oedo Tai brings that. I think it's less entertaining now than what it was Hazuki and Kagetsu, but whatever. Like, she has fans, she has people that really like her, and like, for her to get a title shot, like, it's a big deal. I don't think anybody was under the delusion that she was going to win, but like, that's the thing. That's the reason why these white belt and red belt matches are so good. You get one of these every 6 months at best, if you're at the top of Stardom. And this was like the biggest match of her career, and halfway into it, after she finally got the people hooked, knee goes out. It sucks. I hope she gets well soon. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. It sucked. It really did. But I guess to move on, for as far as the future coming out of this show, they have a Corkin Hall in about like 5-6 hours, and it's a trios title match. In the main event, it's Cosmic Angels versus Queen's Quest, Utami, Talasai, and Azumi challenging for the trios titles. Maybe Saya gets some comeuppance on Tam that way. Even though she lost singles match, she takes her faction, the trios belts. That'd be a great faction or trios team. And also news, you end up getting the announcement of the Grand Prix, the 5-star Grand Prix this year. 20 contestants, a full 20-person round robin tournament in 2 brackets or 2 blocks. Blue stars and red stars, they don't do A block, B block. You have to decide which A block and B block. Normally me and Rich decide based off the rosters, which is the A block and which is the B block every year. I guess we'll save that for in the coming weeks when we preview the Grand Prix, but NASCO was on there. They had 19 people announced in a person named X to be named later. There was speculation on that could be Jungle. It could be Ren Katakura from Marvelous. It could be even Takumi Oroha from Marvelous. But looks like we're going to need another X or something to figure out to get to 20. But they had, instead of 19 dates, they had 21 dates, which makes me think they were going to do nights 1 and 2 be like this 2 big pay-per-view type shows, and then they do the tournament like the G1 is. So I'm excited when they get to it. Like it starts, I believe, July 31st and then ends September 25th, I think. But we'll give you that over the next coming weeks. The preview when Rich back, because it's more entertaining when Rich gets to talk about which is the A block, which is the B block. But I think that just starting out, I think that the block that Tam and Shuri and Utami and Konami are in is like that's a really loaded block as far as like reliable wrestlers that are very good and consistent compared to the other block. But the other block is nothing to sneeze at. So I think it'll be fun. I think it's nice that they're actually going to have the shows similar to the G1, where there's one match, there's one like tag match that's on to start the show, and then you get the 5 matches in one block, as opposed to mixing and matching in previous years. So I think this is going to be the best Grand Prix yet, which is saying something, because they're not like superior, like vastly inferior to the G1. They're not. So excited for that. But yeah, I think that's the end of the show, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening, y'all. Be sure to rate us on whatever app you're listening to with this. Check out ProWrestlingTees.com/Social Suplex and pick up some official Social Suplex Podcast Network merchandise. Check out the Red Circle page and drop us off with a donation. And listen to other shows on the network. You got this show, One Nation Radio. You got Keepin It Strong Style. You got the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Podcast. You have Grown Men Watch This Shit every other Wednesday. You have the Grave Consequences Podcast. You have 8-Bit Suplex. You have All Things Elite. And you have Great Match Generator. Thanks for listening, y'all. Later.